only that initially. So after they map it initially, we go into the sound booth and we check my thresholds. My thresholds went from like 80 to 90 dB, way at the bottom of the audiogram, to 25, 30. Now, I couldn't understand anything, but I could hear the fan blowing from the computer that was nearby. I could hear people walking down the hall, and still hear them walking down the hall, and still hear them walking down the hall. I mean, for me, with hearing aids, it was like I heard somebody walk by, then I didn't hear them again. Okay? So it's a very different experience. There was more sound coming in than I knew what to do with, or my brain didn't know what to do with. But my favorite thing is, we actually were told to go ahead, go have lunch, come back, and we'll do some further testing. So we go outside, and this guy, total stranger, comes up, walks next to me, and he notices that I have a cochlear implant. He must have been one of the researchers there. And he says, "How do you like your implant?" Now, he wasn't looking at me. He didn't stop to talk to me. He just said, "How do you like your implant?" And I went, "Did you just ask me how I like my implant?" He said, "Yeah." And so he starts talking more. No idea what he's saying. It's kind of like that. You've heard your name so many times that even if you had a kid screaming in the room and somebody says your name, you hear your name, right? So I made the connection right there that, okay, my brain isn't ready for this. But I've heard stuff like, "Can you hear me?" Thousands of times, millions of times, right? Well, when he said, "How do you like your implant?" I thought, okay, I don't get that. I don't get that. I understood it then. My brain figured it out. But that gave me hope. So there was something good to come. So when I returned to Memphis, Elizabeth D'Amico helped with some of the mappings here, but I would go periodically to Los Angeles for about a year. And then I didn't need to get out there anymore. So being at Memphis, because I was in a PhD program where there were audiology and speech pathology students, we set up a situation where I would have one or both of these students come up with therapy exercises for me. So it's kind of a win-win situation in that they got this rare experience to work with an adult who already had a history of hearing and hearing well, but now he's got this new device and it's not working so well initially. On the other hand, I'm like, PhD student, I'm like, if this doesn't work, let's try something else. So being on that end of the treatment was kind of cool. So we did stuff like working with telephone exercises. I could not understand anybody on the telephone before the implant, and I sure can't now, but I can get bits and pieces. So we would start out with things like, okay, the topic will be the zoo. And then I'd go into one room, the student would go into another room, and we'd try to have a conversation about the zoo. Well, the fact that it's the zoo, I can anticipate what we're going to talk about. You know, okay, we're going to talk about some animals. But then eventually, after about a year, they didn't tell me what the topic was going to be. And to make it even more difficult, okay, we're going to talk about one topic, and about halfway through, I'm going to completely switch the topic to something else. Well, I was starting to get better and better and better at things like that. Let me tell you some more fun things. How about being able to order my first pizza 2 months after I got my cochlear implant? And now we can get on the internet and type it. Papa John. But so I was able to order a pizza 2 months after my implant. You guys know about eBay, right? eBay right around that time was just coming out, and so I ordered something, I don't remember what it was, and it was supposed to be delivered to my school, but it went across the street to the, what's the Department of Health?
Oh, the health department, yeah.
The health department, right across the street. So we're talking about downtown, and they were only
We were
a
down the
away.
block at the Bowling Center.
And so I called, well, it was UPS, and UPS gave me a tracking number and all that. So I called UPS, and they're like, well, it's been delivered, and oh, apparently it was delivered across the street by mistake. Let me give you a new tracking number. Okay, how long are those tracking numbers? I missed one digit. When they repeated it the second time, I got it.
It was on the phone.
It was on the phone. That was 6 months. 4 months after my implant, I was going down for a meeting in New Orleans. There was another PhD student going with me and another audiology student, so we were all going down together. And I was really tired that day, so I asked if they could drive, and I sit in the back seat, take a nap. And so I'm in the back seat, and I had this wildly vivid dream about a semi-truck that's going in and out of traffic. And then finally, it makes a wrong turn, and it flips over, jackknife towards us, we hit the car, and it explodes. I had a great dream, right? I wake up, and I tell my 2 friends about this dream, and their jaws drop. Because for the last hour, they had been following a semi-truck that wouldn't let them pass. Okay, number 1, I wasn't listening to the conversation. I was dreaming. But I formed a dream around their conversation, even though I wasn't actively listening to the conversation. Isn't that weird? Okay, so needless to say, over 3 years or so, I'm just hearing more and more and finding more and more benefit. And now that it's been literally coming up 10 years since I've had this implant, I'm still wearing a hearing aid on the other side because I have hair cells that are hanging on for their dear life. I have hit a point where I'm not seeing any change. My life is pretty good, but people are always asking me, what about the second implant? I'm like, well, I'm okay with things now. If they're going to make it that much better, I don't know. I'm kind of toying with that whole concept, but I think I will one day. What I really want to do is, the surgeon that's at the University of Arkansas Medical School, he is also hard of hearing himself. He has severe hearing loss, and he is a candidate for a cochlear implant. And so I said, when you're ready to get a cochlear implant, you let me know. You can do my surgery, somebody else will do yours, and then we'll talk about our experience together. So I don't know when he's going to be ready. He's probably crazier busy than I am, and so I think he's probably mostly worried about, being out of commission for a little while. So that is the story. Okay? I am teaching now. I'm doing all the things that I thought I would be doing, teaching, research, and because of the cochlear implant, I can